All right, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me at AWE, getting it kicked off today. Well, I'm here to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in the Orlando region with our Orlando Regional Digital Twin. So it's a new innovation. Digital twins have been around for a while, but the way that we are using it is a little more innovative and unique. We are using it for economic development. So most digital twins, I think, as many people in the room probably already know if they're attending this session, are basically, at its purest form, a virtual replica of a real world thing. And what we have done is recreated 800 square miles of the Orlando region in a virtual model that we can then use to pitch to companies that are looking to relocate and expand. But before I get too much into the what, let's talk about the why. So the Orlando Economic Partnership that I'm the creative director for on their marketing and branding team, we do two things: economic development and community development. And what we have done is we want to bring those things together. And you might be thinking, why is there a marketing guy up here talking about digital twins? Well, Orlando is known for probably one thing. What do you know Orlando for? Disney, theme parks, hospitality. Yep. IAPA, I like it. So hospitality, exactly. Orlando's known for immersive storytelling, so why would we not tell Orlando's story in that exact same way? So before I talk too much about what it is, let's take a quick look at a quick video. So that was just a quick sizzle reel that, let's make sure that doesn't start again. Well, that was just a quick sizzle reel to kind of show you guys the grounding of what I'm actually talking about instead of just trying to imagine what's there. But Orlando, like I said, known for those immersive experiences. And because of our ecosystem in MS&T, we've been kind of dubbed the modeling and simulation capital of the world. And that is because we have almost $7 billion of government funding that from every branch of the military that flows through our city, specifically around modeling and simulation. So we are a good marriage of that private enterprise and hospitality and entertainment using that simulation and modeling, as well as the government entity. So we have the resources and the talent to make that all come to life. So what you saw in that video is the model that we use to pitch Orlando. And not only is it a showcase of physically what Orlando has to offer, but its existence is a great representation of what Orlando can do. So it was entirely built using Orlando resources, talent, and technology. But let's talk a little bit about it because it wasn't the easiest road, right? So again, like I said, I'm a marketing guy, but what I do is visual storytelling. So that's my background, that's my passion. There is no better storytelling tool than what we created than that. So, I mean, it's my passion and it's a great tool for me to use in Orlando. But I had to learn a few things along the way. So not only am I, like I said, the creative director, but I'm also moonlighting as the digital twin guy. So this was my project. So I led it from development into implementation and now in sustainment. Thank you for pressing that slide. But what I learned along the way was two things. A, somehow in this industry full of brilliant voices, I am looked at as an expert on digital twins. Ignore that. And then B, it costs money. It costs a lot of money. So that was one of my biggest challenges with getting this off the ground. But the partnership is really uniquely positioned between, like I said, public enterprise and private enterprise. We act as a convener already in our community. And basically, the funding approach that I've taken for progressing this tool is exactly that. So bringing in private partners that we can co-develop with in order to continue to grow capabilities and data sets in this that not only benefit us at the partnership and our community as we continue to grow it, but also the partner that's helping us invest and meeting their goals as well. So this is just the first phase of a multiple phase project that we have launched. In phase one, we wanted it to be an economic development tool. How many of you are familiar with what economic development is? Okay, there's actually some hands in the room. That's good. So the way that's traditionally done, that everyone does it today, is a company that's looking to move their business will reach out, or a person called a site selector, so it's just a professional who does that for a company, will reach out and say, hey, these are the parameters that my business needs to succeed. I'm interested in moving to Orlando. So what you do is you pull your team together and you look at all your research tools, pull together your proof points. That CEO flies in, maybe you have 24 hours with them, more if you're super lucky. And then you bring them to your office, you sit them down in a traditional boardroom or a space like this, and you go through your 100-page PowerPoint of exactly why Orlando was right for you. And then it gets even more fun. Everyone gets in a Sprinter van, and then we drive around 4 different counties and look at 5 different sites that are just dirt. So you can imagine it's not the most glamorous experience. We knew there had to be a better way of doing that. So as you saw in the video, we worked with Unity Technologies to come up with a solution and change the way that that is done. And that solution was virtually replicating that 800 square mile zone that we use in economic development to sell to companies. Within that 800 square miles, you can start to see here, we have about 40 square miles that are in high fidelity that we're gonna recommend first and foremost as economic developers. And what we can do is we can then take that model, and the value is being able to layer different data sets on top of that model in real time and answer those questions for that company that's looking. It's different than what they're used to, right? They might be seeing 5 different cities in 6 days, and you're trying to prove that Orlando's the right spot. This is gonna be memorable. This is gonna change that experience. It takes away the reliance on that traditional site tour and that PowerPoint presentation in a very linear line, and it lets us answer those questions in a real-time dynamic format, sitting right there. They can virtually tour sites, multiple sites, and hey, maybe they might select one and then we can go drive and look at the dirt, but this helps eliminate those costly resources. Really, digital twins have been around for ages. This is nothing new, right? Literally decades, people have been using digital twins. The healthcare industry, the military industry, energy providers, basically anything that requires a lot of costly, expensive, real-world assets could benefit from using a digital twin to model and simulate those scenarios before ever going and using those actual real-world assets. And that's what we did for Orlando. We want to continue to change and grow what this tool can do. Like I said, this is phase one, right? Phase one, we wanted it to be a pitch tool. It's great. It looks awesome in our marketing center. It's flashy. It's got about 200 different data sets right now that we layer on. They come from sources like Esri, Lightcast, folks like that you might be familiar with if you're in the commercial real estate or economic development game. But we got to continue to expand that and move this beyond just a descriptive model, like a snapshot in time of today, this is the data we have, to a predictive model. We want to get those real world assets, make it more dynamic, and shift it from a marketing tool toward an operational tool. And that's exactly what we're doing in phase 2 right now. So we've actually partnered with IBM. It's a little company you may have heard of, a few years old. We're working with them with their business services side, not their technology side, to look forward to the future at what our twin can do and bringing them in as a consultant that help us make those decisions. Actually, not too long ago, we did what they called our garage sessions, where they literally sat us down with some key players. We're all full of ideas, right? Taking budget, like I said, out of it and saying, what do we need this tool to do for us in the future to be successful? Of course, you can imagine at our two-day session, you get quite a few things. That session helped us prioritize and really streamline the way that we're thinking and come with actual real-world tangible capabilities that we can work toward. And with that solution, we can now turn around to our partners in the community and say, okay, this is where we want to take it. This is how it benefits you. Are you on board for that? So that's my model that I'm following moving forward for our second phase in order to grow those capabilities and keep this on the forefront of the technology. Because honestly, this is, like I said, nothing new, but give it 5, definitely 10 years. Cities having a digital twin and being digitized will be a commodity. This will not be novel or new or interesting to anyone. So we must continue to innovate and bring in those partners that can help us stay at the forefront and improve what our model and our simulations can do to answer those questions. So today, it's that economic development story that we share, but tomorrow we want it to be some real-world tangible differences for our community. I think as we talk about community planning and regional planning, I think it's going to come as a surprise to none of you that happens in silos today, right? You have your private enterprise with their goals they're working on. You have your public and their goals. You have your nonprofits. And of course, they're all working efficiently and effectively trying to hit their numbers or their goals, whatever their objectives are. But what we do with our twin is we provide an agnostic platform that those players can all come together and layer on top of to create a true holistic vision of our Orlando region and use it for planning, right? Like what I like to say is we want our model and our twin to be the master plan of master plans. Think about how powerful it would be that we could have a company that's interested in Orlando. When they're making that decision to move, that is not a 5, 10-year, 15-year decision. I mean, that is a decades-long, 20, 30, 40, 50-year decision they're making. That is a career maker or a career breaker. So they want the facts, they want it to be right, and they want it to be right now, and they want it to be right in the future. With that model, that master plan of master plans, we can give them probably the closest representation of what Orlando is going to look like in 20 to 30 years. And we can model out, okay, if you're deciding on this site, or this site, okay, what is the climate impact on that site? What's the future transportation plans that are going to impact that site for your employees' commute or how you move your product, right? We can start to show them what that looks like now, of course, but also what that means for them in the future. It's a long play. So these CEOs, they're stepping off a plane, they're taking an Uber to your office, they have no clue where they are, right? Because they're doing this back to back. This is a real way for them to visualize what they're looking at and understand very quickly that they're making the right choice. And it also, we're able to provide them that data and these proposals that they can then take back and evangelize to the rest of the company that this is the right spot for them. I think everyone's heard a little bit about AI today, probably, or will be in the next few days. We're no different. We're looking to that generative AI. And one of our priorities we've been working with IBM on is how can we incorporate that into our twin, into our model to help us further its capabilities. And what we want to look for is basically we're limited as people and as an office on the resources that we have, the data that we have access to, and how quickly our human capital can turn one of these proposals around. If you're familiar with the business at all, it's not about getting the right data, it's about getting the right data the fastest, because that could be a differentiator for whoever that project decides to go with. What if we incorporated a generative AI model into our twin that we then let the twin tell us, okay, this is how you should respond to the proposal. It would look back at our previous wins, our previous losses, and be able to decide this is the right proposal that's going to give you a better chance of winning this project. And it could do it almost immediately, right? So the speed to market would change and be an incredible advantage for us. That's where we look to go. That's where we continue to go. You know, real world examples of something that could benefit the rest of the community and our partners like this. Let's think about an energy provider, for instance. So everyone put on your imagination hat and pretend that you're one of the biggest energy providers in America and you're located in the Southeast. And a storm comes and wipes out power across the Orlando MSA. It is your responsibility, clearly, to make sure you have the resources to get it all fixed. How quickly can you get it done so that people aren't living without air conditioning and electric and, you know, keeping their food cold? The number one expense in all of that is probably not shocking, but is the labor. And you know where the majority of that labor is spent during those deployments? Driving from site to site in completely inoptimal conditions, right? It's a storm. So think about, we have this model now. Using our kind of twin of twins, they can optimize the deployment of those trucks in real time against actual conditions that are happening in the city. A, saving money, and B, getting the AC back on as fast as they can for the folks that live in your area. So you're more than just a name on the bill when it comes at the end of the month, right? Think about a city park. Orlando is putting a lot of work into rejuvenating our downtown right now, including a lot more green spaces for families and areas to stop and work or take your lunch, right? So let's say you're a city planner trying to figure out where these micro parks or these green spaces are gonna go. Using our twin, you can start to model out, okay, if we do different designs of this park or in different footprints, what does that mean for parking? What does that mean for foot traffic? And make sure that it's the right decision for that green space today and for the people in the community moving forward to tomorrow. So we want to continue to innovate and move our technology forward and bring those different disparate entities together under our model that lets us kind of be that voice of the region and move it beyond just our modeling and simulation of what Orlando could be, but a real world example of what it is today and where it could go into the future. So it's extremely important that cities, not just Orlando, look to the digital future. We must adopt the changing technology, AR, digital twins, right? Like you name it, anything metaverse is going to help us enable and make our futures better in our cities and our communities. Again, taking down those silos between those different entities and letting us have that agnostic view of what the future holds for the people in our community and making those right decisions. So that's what I've got with our Orlando Digital Twin. I'd be happy to take a few questions if anyone has. Oh, wait, have you guys, yeah, I would say, what we'll do is we'll have you guys line up at the microphone if you have a question. We're gonna do Comic-Con style. No pressure, everyone's just watching you walk down the aisle and be the first one to ask a question.
Okay. Okay, I just have one question here. I was wondering, so I can see this model and it looks a lot like the Esri model. So do you have an example to show us how you show the AI and how it informs your decision making?
So the video that I showed you earlier kind of has the best representation of the capabilities today. I want to be clear, we have not incorporated that AI yet. So that's what we're working on right now, is incorporating that AI into our model and our twin. But you can see right now, this is some Esri visualization. Today in our capabilities, we can represent over the model heat mapping like this, like you see from Esri, points of interest, boundaries, transportation networks, workforce and information, basically business decision-making tools we can layer over the top.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I think all this is fascinating and very forward-thinking on Orlando's part.
Thank you.
I'm curious if there's ever been any discussions with you and your team about taking it one step further and actually, because you come from the land of rides and attractions, building an actual end-to-end attraction to demonstrate all of these capabilities beyond just digital twin and an immersive display that you're sort of people gather and look at. Can you actually put them on a ride? Has that
You're speaking my language. We're not there yet, but we're working with 302 Interactive, who, shameless plug, you can guys go see them on the expo floor. But they're one of our homegrown developers in Orlando. And we have a VR companion app that basically gives you a very similar demonstration that you would get in the marketing center, but on a VR headset. That's as far as we've gotten, but I like where you're going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of a paired question.
All right.
Other cities have been doing this with anything as mundane as trash pickup and other things to look at the mechanics of the environment, how it works. Have you looked to those folks for other inspiration or seen other things you'd love to bring into this? And then, of course, you are in the land of Disney. Is there anything with this that actually then brings in some of their digital twin ecosystems into your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first half of that is absolutely yes. We've been doing benchmarking with quite a few folks. Unity, as we were doing our development, introduced us to a few other folks, like the Toronto Airport, for instance, Singapore. One of the most impressive examples of a digital twin going from kind of model to operational that I've seen is Tyndall Air Force Base, which is in North Florida. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar, but probably 10 years ago, it was leveled by a hurricane. But what they have done is before they rebuilt the base, they modeled it out entirely as basically a model, a simulation. They then used that to build the actual base, and now that the base is constructed, they have operationalized it. So it's a terrible example, but say there's an incident or an active shooter on the base. They know when they deploy resources exactly every square foot of that base. They know what is inside this wall, where's the wiring, where's the stud, can I punch through it, where's the egress, and they can use that to make those real-time decisions. So it was probably one of the most impressive versions of a digital twin that I've seen. But again, many digital twins are a very finite area. We were really ambitious and we wanted to cover all of Central Florida. So we're continuing to add those capabilities. The second half of that question is, so with no shame, our hospitality partners like Disney and Universal are big investors in our work already. So we are hand in step looking to the future with them. And Orlando would not be where it is today, like I said, without that public enterprise and without that private enterprise. The talent that sits behind them is what fuels our ecosystem of innovation there. So even if they didn't have a direct hand in it, their influence is all over it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Who owns the digital twin model?
So we
do. Is this a generic term or everybody is using it differently?
So we own the model itself, and we wanted to create that model. So basically our partners that are looking to digital twin can start out on second base, to use an analogy. So they can then take our model that we own, use their data, and build on top of that. So they can start with our starting place and then customize it toward their needs.
Okay, we are looking forward for using the model in manufacturing to make it digital twin for the whole assembly line. And there is feedback between the digital twin and the physical assembly line back and forth, so you can optimize the performance.
Yep.
Are you doing something like this in this economic
So not yet. So right now, ours is just a snapshot in time. We don't have that sensor data giving us that real-time feedback yet from the real-world side of it, right? We are doing data pushes manually to it to update that model.
But do you know if anybody is doing this in manufacturing now?
Ooh, I know from a lot of R&D manufacturing, we have a lot of advanced manufacturing, so semiconductor packaging and hyper technical manufacturing, they are. There's a company called IMEC based out of our area that does that, and a lot of it is digital twinning before they ever produce the wafer and semiconductor, right? From an assembly line perspective, I'm not sure if anyone's doing that yet.
And there is digital prototype. We create a prototype by using digital twin and enhancing performance.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think this will be our last question. We're just wrapping up.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
We've been building for cities across the U.S. and Canada for some time, and I wanted to get your input on this as you guys have been putting in multiple data layers. Have you thought about simulation in terms of being able to activate the layers to produce outcomes and to predict future economic prospects?
Yep, so that's absolutely where we want to go.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet. Like I said, we're using data pushes basically to make those analysis ourselves, and we're using human capital to do that analysis. We want to get to a place where the model is making, right, like I said, from a descriptive model to a predictive model. So that's where our journey is right now that we're going through with IBM. Thank you. All right, thank you everybody.